Vanguard Bandits for the PS1 has just recently been released to the PlayStation Network. When I originally requested this game for review, I was a little apprehensive. Strategy RPGs are generally not my thing, although I haven't given them a fair chance. So, deciding to give this game a fair shot, I played through the entire thing, and about a quarter of the way through the game I was really digging it. I spent an entire day and played through about 80% of the game in just one solid go, and that's basically how I spent my entire Sunday. And I absolutely loved it. Once I got into the characters and the plot, the game was really charming and really endearing. Now, a large part of that is because this is a working designs game. So the translation isn't as faithful as it could be, but that is by no means a bad thing. There's just little things that are thrown into the game. One of the characters, Barlow, when he wins a battle, will say, "Can you smell what Barlow is cooking?" That is a prime example of what I'm talking about. So it's just little touches, little dashes of flavor that were added in by the Working Designs translation, which I found to be absolutely charming and lovable. So I had a really good time playing through this game. Now, there's not a lot to this game outside of the combat and the cutscenes. So there's 20 chapters throughout a playthrough of this game, and each chapter pretty much comprises of a small cutscene before and after a combat scene. Now, some of the chapters do have multiple missions dashed in, but for the most part, it's cutscene, combat, cutscene, and then it takes you to the save screen where you can save your game, load a game, interview characters. At some points in the game you will see the option to buy and sell, like if you're in a town you can buy or sell weapons and gear for your ATAC. And there's also a mission briefing which will show you the layout of the map where you're about to engage in combat and give you a little bit of information, maybe a tip or two from one of the characters in your party. Now, the world in which this game takes place, there is a lot of civil war and strife on the continent in which the characters inhabit. This combat takes place inside of giant robots, which is freaking awesome. It looks like a medieval type world, and it is. This is the crumbling remains of a once grand society, and these people have found ATACs buried deep in the ruins of the previous civilization. So there are some ATACs that were dug up by archaeologists, as well as some ATACs which are new and have been built since the discovery of the ATAC. The ATAC being an all-terrain armored combatant. So basically a giant robot knight that your characters pilot. There are lots of really cool robot designs, and luckily in the options menu you can go to the ATAC viewer, and as you progress through the game the different ATACs that you've seen get added to the ATAC viewer. And I haven't unlocked all of them because there are multiple branching paths in the game, so I haven't seen everything that is to be seen. I played through one of the storylines, and unfortunately I got the bad ending because one of my characters didn't really like me. I didn't spend enough time interviewing him. So I've gone back to one of my older saves, and I'm going to play through the game knowing how to play it now, and I'm going to get that good ending. I don't know if I'm going to go through and get every ending, but the bad ending is really depressing. And I don't know if I should spoil it, but basically, yeah, I'm going to spoil it. Basically, the bad guy wins, and as a cherry on top, and he's like, "And I'm immortal too, isn't it wonderful?" And you're just like, oh man, what have I done? And I'm going to go back and get the good endings. I really was bummed by the bad ending. Is really kind of sad. So as you play through the game you can see the different ATACs, and it also keeps track of how many missions you fought. So you have to play all the different branching storylines to unlock all the missions and all the ATACs in the ATAC viewer. Now, the storyline is not the greatest storyline in the world. Basically, like I said earlier, there's civil war and strife. There's lots of betrayal and the underdogs winning. As you progress through the storyline, the balance of power shifts and you start to gain allies. You start to have a lot of really cool and really powerful ATACs added to your party. It's very enjoyable. Like I said, personally, I haven't really played a lot of strategy RPGs, and this is the first one that I've sat down and played all the way through, and I absolutely had a blast. I do understand that this is not the type of game that's going to be for everyone, but if you're a working designs fan, if you're an RPG fan, if you're a strategy RPG fan, I would say this is a definite must-own game. If you're curious, I would say go ahead and pick it up. It's only $10 on the PSN. I think it's worth every penny. Now, if this is your first strategy role-playing game, do not worry. Monkey Paw Games and Gaijin Works have you covered. Go to monkeypawgames.com and go to the page for Vanguard Bandits, and there is a downloadable PDF version of the Vanguard Bandits strategy guide, the one that was put out by Working Designs when this game was originally released in North America. And I have poked around a little bit through it. I played through the game blind. I don't like to go through with strategy guides and FAQs and stuff unless I absolutely get stuck. So I played through the game blind on my own. But having poked around just a teensy bit, going through the PDF is definitely worth it because there's lots of that Working Designs, trademark humor, pop culture references from like 1999. Very fun stuff. Also, if you get stuck in the game, there it is. There's the official Working Design strategy guide, free of charge for download at monkeypawgames.com. So you can't argue with that. Another thing I don't really mention a lot, this being a PSN release in the PS1 Classics line, there is a software manual. When you're playing the game, if you hit the home button on your PSP or the home button on your DualShock 3 or 6-axis controller, it brings up a menu where you can access the manual for the game, which again, loaded with background information on the world that the game takes place in. There is a small strategy guide for the first 3 levels, as well as a pitch for the strategy guide, which you can also get digitally. Very cool stuff, and I think it's worth poking through it just because this is a Working Designs game. Everyone knows I'm a big fan of the Sega CD, so I know Working Designs very well. I now understand why they have had and do have such a loyal, strong following. So if the game looks interesting to you from what you see in the video, if it sounds like something you would enjoy, I would say for $9.99 it is a solid purchase. Be forewarned that the game pretty much boils down to cutscene, strategy RPG fight, cutscene. Until there's no wandering around, there's no exploring, there's no puzzle solving. It's just pure giant robot combat, plus a good story with an interesting Working Designs touch of flavor.